Who would win in a fight if the Thing ever met the Blob? And I know we've all asked ourselves that question at some point. So let's put together a hypothetical scenario where this meeting takes place and observe what happens. A meteorite, originating from parts unknown, is hurtling through space at 60,000 miles per hour. It's unknown how long it has been travelling for, but we do know that its close proximity to Earth is not good news for us, for this meteorite is carrying something. It enters Earth's orbit, and then Earth's atmosphere, and then it makes its final impact. Landing on the continent of Antarctica, the impact zone is rapidly heated, and much of the rock becomes molten. A small piece of the meteor remains in the middle of the crater. It cracks open. A life form is contained within. At the moment it's rather small and unassuming, but like all life forms, this creature intends to survive and grow. And with the local area now temporarily heated far beyond its normal temperature range, the blob can now begin actively searching for sustenance. Its food of choice? Anything alive. Antarctica isn't entirely barren. Life exists here, most of it native to the region. And while the few non-natives currently residing here have come from other parts of Earth, there's one visitor who came from further afield, a very, very long time ago. Another entity, a predatory one, has in recent weeks been rather active on the Antarctic continent itself. Having arrived on an alien ship at some point in Earth's distant past, it had, until recently, been frozen beneath the wastes. But, disturbed by the activities of a visiting team of researchers and scientists, this entity emerged from its eon-long slumber. Its interest piqued by the intense disturbance and the spike in temperature at the impact zone, and with the personnel of the research base all having now perished while trying to fend it off, it sets off, in husky form, toward what its instincts are saying may be a potential new prey item. But little does this lifeform know that what lies in wait is not just another human being or sentient animal, like the ones it encountered before that can be easily assimilated. It's something else entirely, something more than capable of taking it on. While both the blob and the Thing that has been terrorising the scientists stationed at the remote Antarctic base are both extraterrestrial in origin, they each come from very different parts of the universe. In fact, it's even possible that they each hail from different universes altogether, as virtually nothing is known about either of their true origins. We can make a good start, though, by looking at each of their respective biologies. And also, just so we're clear, I'll be using the blob from the Steve McQueen 1958 film and the 1982 The Thing film directed by John Carpenter as models for the purposes of this video, ignoring any and all sequels, originals, books they may have been based on, remakes, etc, etc. I did, however, use an image from the 1980s Blob remake on the thumbnail of this video, but that was only because it looks cool. The Thing is able to replicate any living being down to the cellular level. Each of its own cells operates independently and contains genetic material capable of rapid reorganization. Once it infects a victim, its cells bind with the host's cells, analyzes their unique structure, and then copies their DNA. Doing this allows it to create an identical clone, if it isn't interrupted. It can survive as a whole, or in fragments, able to infect literally any creature, no matter how great or small. Its powers of adaptation are practically unrivaled, too. It seems able to survive, at the very least, in extremely cold conditions, as once it was woken up by the Antarctic research team, it pretty much got to work on them straight away. It didn't need any time to recover at all, really. All of this means that it can basically invade any place, anywhere, no matter the conditions. And while we haven't ever seen the thing attempt to survive in an environment with extremely high temperature, barring the use of flamethrowers on it of course, I'd say it's a good bet that it could probably do so without too much difficulty. The thing is the perfect invader, being quiet and devastatingly efficient. Its origin and its true form are unknown, if it even has one beyond just being a collection of individual microscopic cells. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the thing is its intelligence, and it is an intelligent life form. It moves with purpose, and it plans its moves, utilising its ability to stir up discord, panic, and extreme paranoia among a group of victims. It is extremely dangerous, both physically and psychologically. Now, when it comes to the Blob, we have a very different animal. There are similarities between these two horrific entities, of course, but there are just as many differences between them too. The Blob has a definite form, albeit an amorphous one. It is similar to the Thing, however, in that assimilation is the name of the game. They both do it, but in very different ways. For the Blob, rather than relying on trickery, psychological manipulation, slow takeovers of living hosts, or attempting to blend into a biosphere like the Thing, it instead prefers to simply pounce on and smother its prey before absorbing it. The Blob doesn't seem to appreciate the fine art of subtlety. I suppose a more direct approach can be beneficial if your aim is to consume every living thing on Earth. Physically, the Blob seems to be made up of a vast network of semi-liquid cytoplasm, similar to the slime moulds found on Earth. This is of course just a little speculation on my part, but it makes sense though, right? The two are also similar in that, as well as total assimilation of all living things being each one's primary aim, their own physical growth is extremely important too. For the Thing, with its fragmented molecular nature, this entails taking over every individual human being or animal and replacing it with a clone made up of its own essence. But for the Blob, this means remaining as one individual entity that has absorbed all living matter within reach. Now, when a video has verses in the title, an audience is well within its rights to expect a fight, or at the very least, a debate. Well, seeing as arguing carefully crafted points based on logic and reason isn't exactly the Blob's forte, it looks like a fight is the only option left. When we last saw the Thing, it was heading in the direction of the Blob's meteor impact zone, intrigued by the chaos and warmer temperatures created by this event. Driven across the icy tundra by pure instinct, and possibly malice, it's not long before it reaches the area. The Blob is also aware of the other alien's presence, thanks to its keen senses. It has managed to gain some mass by gorging on a group of elephant seals that were nearby. It is strong now, and quite a bit larger than before, but time is not on its side. The area, while temporarily heated by the impact of the meteorite, is beginning to cool again. The Blob does not do well with cold temperatures, certainly not with freezing temperatures. The Thing, however, has no such handicap. It can survive almost anywhere. It doesn't know about the Blob's weakness, however. If it did, then it could simply bide its time and wait for its opponent to lose its strength and mobility before closing in. But the only way for the Thing to understand an organism, replicate it, and then eventually replace it, is to acquire genetic data. To do this, it needs to approach its prey and make physical contact. All the Blob wants to do, however, is overwhelm the warm, organic tissue of the Thing's husky form and mindlessly absorb it. It approaches. The Thing, to begin with, simply walks forward and begins to eat some of the Blob's outer membrane to analyse. Once this has been done, it quickly puts a few meters of distance between itself and its potential prey before it is able to latch on. The internal analysis of the blob's genetic profile complete, it now has a very clear picture of what it's dealing with. It walks forward, again towards the blob, and then makes its move by lying down on the ground. This is not an act of resignation or submission, however. It is simply the best way to deal with this particular threat. The blob does not possess traditional cells like life on Earth. It's more like a gelatinous giant enzyme with no stable internal structure to imitate. It would be like trying to imitate something as changeable as a waterfall or a hurricane. The thing can study it and even come up with defences, but it cannot truly become it. As such, a different approach is required. As the blob slowly envelops and absorbs the thing's canine form, it would appear to an observer that the confrontation has come to an end. This is far from true, though. In fact, the reason the thing has allowed itself to be absorbed is because, while it can't replicate the blob, it can attempt to hide inside of it as a parasite. This can only happen if the blob doesn't digest the thing too quickly, however. The two monstrous entities are now both in a race against time. The blob, due to its rapidly cooling environment, and the thing because of its enemy's ability to now easily digest it. The thing's only hope for survival now is to act as a passenger within the blob and feed on the life forms it comes across and absorbs. Of course, this is not an ideal situation for the thing in any way, and the best course of action would have been to retreat and avoid the blob entirely. However, this being a creature driven by an insatiable hunger and an overwhelming instinct to assimilate any and all life forms it encounters, it really had little choice in the matter. It is simply a slave to its own impulses. It is also not a singular creature, but a collection of intelligent, independent cells. Even if this gamble doesn't pay off, there are still many of the thing's cells remaining on Antarctica, some active, some frozen and waiting. The blob now continues on, unthinking in its motions. The dog form within it starts to break down, slowly, but it is not dead or defeated. As the blob begins to venture further away from the impact zone, the temperature begins to drop. It keeps going, its drive to find food overpowering its instincts to avoid the cold. But eventually, it begins to stiffen and slow down. It seems that it won't be finding anything else to absorb here. Eventually, it freezes and is left little more than a solid mass of icy, alien material. Within, the thing has remained partially undigested, a small mass of its cells remaining. Now, as before, it can remain frozen, but now within a host body and lie in wait. People will surely be arriving soon to investigate the meteor impact zone, and when they do, they're likely to find and disturb a strange frozen blob of alien matter with a mass of malignant, insidious, extraterrestrial cells contained within. Having now merged together, this monstrosity is not just the blob, not just the thing, but something else entirely, something unspeakable. Well, that's my verdict. Looks like it's a draw, for now. Though I'm sure many of you out there will have a different view on the matter. Please leave a comment down below with your thoughts. Did you agree? Did you disagree with how it turned out? Also, I'd like to inform you that I'm now on X and Instagram, so please head over there and give me a follow if you enjoyed this video. Links in description. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't inform you that I do have a Patreon that you can support me on for just a few pounds or dollars a month. I'm not usually one for the hard sell, but every penny does count in keeping the lights on around here and keeping the channel going. This has been the BewareCast, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.